Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Heiko Hecht. I will walk you in the next hour through this presentation around continuous improvement of your SAP systems. We'll start with a few housekeeping notes before we enter the presentation. This webinar will be recorded. Everyone is on mute currently, and we will reserve some time at the end of the presentation for some questions. Please use the question box for your questions, and we will try to answer them within the hour. We'll have some introductory slides before we get to the agenda and the different items we would like to share with you today. My name is Heiko Hecht. I joined IBIS in '97. You see some of my background more in the financials area. I've also worked with SAP Solution Manager quite a bit, and I'm one of the co-founders of IBIS America LLC. If you're interested in meeting the IBIS team, we will also exhibit at Sapphire in 3 weeks, and we also will have some sessions there around the topics of today's webinar. Quick introduction of the company. IBIS America LLC is part of the Thomé Group. IBIS Professor Thomé AG was founded in '94 by Professor Thomé, and our focus is reverse business engineering of SAP systems. And since 2001, we are also supporting SAP in the SAP Solution Manager area. We are not a typical SAP consulting company. We have a strong background in the research area, and we develop tools and methods for our partners like SAP and our customers. We have a strong partner network, and together with our partners, we are trying to help SAP customers to make the most out of your SAP system. Now, do you really know how your SAP system is running? This is a really loaded question, if you will, because obviously all of us would like to think they know how the SAP system is used. And we might know bits and pieces depending on our organization is set up. But to make the most out of your SAP investment, you really need to have a good understanding of your current SAP system usage. The understanding of your SAP system usage is really directly proportional to how quickly you are able to implement upgrades and utilize new functionality. For that reason, it's really important to have a good starting point, a business blueprint, to initiate your projects. Now, when we talk about continuous system improvement, that can lead us to improving the SAP system, obviously, but we also would like to lower our total cost of ownership in certain areas. And here I have an example of how you can really achieve reducing your total cost of ownerships. There's a study available via that link, and it basically examined SAP implementations, and in average you can lower the TCO by 16%. How can you achieve that? It's listed a couple of possibilities here, and we will go through in the demo session through those numbers. Now, the numbers you see here are benchmark numbers, average numbers. So they might be lower or a little bit higher depending on how long you have SAP in use and what industry solutions you're using. But in average, 90% of your custom programs are currently not used. 72 of your custom transactions are currently not used. So we have lots of obsolete settings and configuration in the SAP system, and that is something to take care of if you want to reduce maintenance costs and improve your SAP system. So it's really about simplification, cleaning up your system. IBIS has captured benchmark information for a very long time now. Reverse business engineering was developed back in the 90s, and we have captured a lot of statistics from our customers. So everybody is interested in increasing the return on investment of your SAP systems. And I've listed a couple of possibilities here. Now the question is, what's preventing you from achieving this? You're not alone in this journey. Everywhere we go, we see customers busy with activities around the SAP system. There's never a good time. There are never enough resources. Today we want to walk you through an approach which really requires minimal investment and minimal resources to get the statistics you need to lower your total cost of ownership. So here we have the agenda. Quick overview of IBIS, usage scenarios where you can leverage the results for upgrade planning, consolidation, documenting your existing processes, what are the advantages, what are the benefits, and then we will take a look at the tool itself, some demonstration of our IDIS system at IBIS to show you how that result could look like. What are the benefits of our services? And then we also have some customer success stories and some time for questions and answers. So what is reverse business engineering, or short RBE? It's a method and it's a tool which was developed back in the 90s by IBIS. We developed a prototype together with SAP and then started analyzing the first customers. That was in 98, 99, and since then we are using the tool and the approach to analyze SAP systems. We have a very strong partnership with SAP, and we were also involved in the development of SAP Solution Manager. Now, how can that tool and that approach be used in your application lifecycle? You see a couple of examples here. Actually, a lot of them. It's a really busy slide here. So it's one tool, it's one approach, and the results can really be used for different means. So upgrade preparation, consolidation of systems, simplification, compliance analysis. The reverse business engineering tool really takes a good snapshot of the current usage in your system. It adds benchmark information and threshold values and provides you with a solid as-is documentation. And that documentation now can be used for improving your system, for lowering your maintenance costs, to make you more agile when it comes to upgrades and enhancement packages. Now, you don't need to take it from us. Here's a slide from Gartner, and they evaluated IBIS and the reverse business engineering tool in their 2014 study, and we're still ahead of the curve. Now, the second time in a row where IBIS was classified as the tool and the method which covers most of the criteria substantially. We're not perfect in all of those categories, but we really have good content for all of those areas we analyze, and definitely one of the leading tool providers in that area. Later on, we also have a couple of customer success stories, and obviously we also have references and articles around reverse business engineering. Now, what are the key components of your enterprise application like SAP? Obviously, very important, the people view, the different SAP users, your processes, and then the underlying technology, interfaces, workflow, RFC devices, iDocs, ALE, you name it. For all those dimensions, we need to thoroughly analyze the SAP system. So we have a people view when we take a look at user activities. Segregation of duties falls into that category. We have the process perspective. When we talk about the business processes, you see some process flows here. Some process, to support process improvements, we visualize the processes and the exceptions, for example. And then from a technology perspective, obviously the system usage, where we talk about interfaces, workflows, transactions, programs, the technical backbone of your SAP system. Now, what are the typical challenges we can address with reverse business engineering? A lot of our customers don't have a current as-is documentation available. Maybe they documented the system a while ago when they implemented it. Maybe they don't have one at all. The problem is the same. If the documentation is not current, you cannot really rely on it. So with reverse business engineering, we can document your system. Lots of our customers have implemented SAP many, many years ago. Maybe you started with 4B, maybe even earlier. So are you really using the latest and greatest functionality in your SAP system? How intensively are you using the SAP system? What are the most used transactions, the most used processes? Where's the impact when it comes to an organizational change? All those questions can be answered with the analysis of your SAP system. Now, we pointed out a couple of usage scenarios, and the upgrade is definitely one of those areas. We have a lot of technical information to support and to plan your technical upgrade. So what needs to be tested, what needs to be prioritized. Typically, we cannot test really everything, so we need to focus on the most used areas where we have the most impact in our SAP system. Maybe we can reduce the testing effort because some areas might not need to be tested because they are not used anymore. And then obviously the functional upgrade, what business processes are currently used, what are our end users doing, and is there new functionality available we might take leverage of. Now, lots of customers have done one technical upgrade after the other. That's also very common from our point of view. So maybe it's time for a functional upgrade and really leverage the latest and greatest SAP technology. Now, a lot of the information you see obviously is extracted directly from your SAP system. So how many transactions are you using? What are the transactions? By how many users are they used? But you also see we include benchmark information, we include alerting, traffic lightning here, for example, and we combine that data to meaningful information. Because a lot of vendors can extract data out of the SAP system, you can do it yourself, but making meaningful information out of that data, that's really the trick here. So you need to structure the data, and that helps you then, for example, to prioritize your testing plans. Maybe you need to plan proper staffing for an upgrade, and it also helps you to identify the functionality in the target release. It's a tool-based approach, so it's very precise, very reliable. There's no room, for guesswork. It's fact-based, and it provides you those statistics and key figures directly in that front end we are looking at. Those are some screen prints, if you will. You will see it later in the online demonstration. You can also drill down to the details. So we typically start with some high-level key figures, and then use traffic lighting and alerts if some numbers are too high or too low, and then you can directly drill down to the corresponding details. So for upgrade purposes, if something is not used, maybe that shouldn't be our focus when we are testing now. We should focus on what's really used, what's used a lot, and maybe we can clean up the system for the next upgrade. We don't need to worry about custom transactions and custom programs if they're not used for Unicode conversions. If you're thinking about S4 and HANA, new technology from SAP, maybe don't need to migrate that functionality to newer versions available from SAP. So this is what RBE is really about, telling you the truth about your SAP business processes. As we've discussed, SAP is around for many, many years now. You might be technically on ECC 6.0 already, but are you really using a lot of the SAP functionality, the newer functionality, or are you still sticking with the old transactions from 4OB, 4A, because you never have done a real functional upgrade? And not using a lot of the SAP functionality might not surprise us too much. I mean, it's a standard software, but maybe we can use more of the SAP functionality and get rid of some customization and third-party tools and some custom code. Now, another use case of our SAP analysis is the comparison or the consolidation of different systems. So if you have several SAP instances, this is a graphic which basically shows you the overlaps and the differences between the different systems. So if we are talking about a merger or acquisition or consolidation of different SAP system instances, we can identify which system is likely to be the target release or the target system. And we also show you all the details behind those statistics. So here it looks like the US system covers a lot of the different applications. The gap is relatively minimal in comparison to the other 4 systems. And then we can drill down into the details and see what do we need to customize in the US system so the other regions can also use that SAP system. Here are some of the details. So here you see some requirement types. You have different columns for the different regions. In standard, we can compare up to 10 systems. We can compare more than that, but for having a good overview, we shouldn't go overboard. Maybe we can group some of the systems together and then compare the groups of those systems, because eventually it's really difficult to read the data the more and more columns you have here, obviously. Same is true for the statistics I've shown before. So the configuration is shown, the descriptions from the different systems, and then where it's used and how often it is used. And then you can drill further down into those details, see all the custom objects, the functional areas where that configuration is used, and then take this information for your consolidation or system merger comparison. Now, we all know when we implement an SAP system or upgrade it, documentation typically comes last. That's just the nature of the beast, because we have a lot of things to do. It's more important to go live and get a system running than worrying about the documentation, and we can do it after the fact, or so we think. And then once the system is go live, the next project initiative starts, so there's never a good time for documentation. So what we are trying to do with reverse business engineering also help you with documenting your existing business processes, and not for the sake of documenting them. It's really the baseline then for our next implementation project, for our next upgrade, to have a solid understanding of our business processes and the technical configuration of the SAP system to help us with testing and our planning for the next release. So we try to summarize the information, and then you can expand and collapse to the different areas, and you get a great overview here of what's really being utilized, how often it is used, by how many users, and are there any specifics by using those transactions, any implications. Maybe there's a newer transaction available. Maybe that's a transaction where you should be very cautious in regards to authorizations. Maybe it's an unusual transaction being used if we compare your system with other systems we have analyzed. If you have that kind of documentation available and it's readily available for everyone, not just in some people's head, then you're really good to go. If not, then you manage your SAP system without a safety net. Based on assumptions and maybe some interviews, what people tell you, but that might not be really what's happening in your SAP system. Now, a lot of companies also look towards simplifying the SAP system, optimizing it, and standardizing business processes. So before we talked about different systems and how we possibly can merge or consolidate those systems, but some companies already have a single instance. That's also something where it might make sense to take a look at to see how the different regions, the different plans, company codes, sales organizations, and whatnot utilize the SAP system. Do they have a lot of things in common? Should they use the same configuration? And how intensively are they using it? We also provide some key figures here, like reversal ratios, open and late, change ratios, and whatnot. So maybe in certain org units, the business process doesn't really run that smoothly. We have lots of exceptions, maybe some errors, lots of returns. That is also something which can be used to improve the SAP system usage. Maybe you will need some end-user training for certain areas, for certain end users, so they leverage the SAP system better. Now we have the overview information, but then also the details. Again, taking a look at processes here. This is from SAP's business process repository. You see the different transactions assigned, the different process steps, how often the transaction was executed, how many users are using it. And maybe it also gives you an indication, why are we not using that SAP standard functionality in here, which can also help you then to improve the SAP usage, maybe use more standard versus custom enhancements we have in our system. We also provide you with ABC analysis. So here you have the usage intensity. In this case, we have 14 plans, and we have 60 movement types. None of those movement types is used in all plants. We have 21 which are only used in one plant. And then you can drill down whether it's movement types or reference procedures or sales document types and see how often they are used and where they are used. And maybe some of those configuration objects should be used in all regions. Maybe others are really only used in one region, in one system, and that totally makes sense because maybe travel expenses are only entered in SAP in the US and not in other regions. But maybe the other regions should use the same functionality, and they're not using it because they have third-party tool to cover that business process. ABC analysis. How many movement types are creating 80% of our documents? Those would be those 6 here. We have 50 which only create 5%. So this helps you to prioritize your testing and see what's really important in your system. And then the usage continuity is something used in 12 months, every month. Is it only used periodic, maybe one-time usage, period end? So we have here 9 movement types which are only used in 1 month out of the 12-month statistic we have here. The next area which is very important if you think about upgrade planning, organizational change management, or testing is the people view. So how well do you understand your SAP user base? How are they using the SAP system? In which areas are they active? What authorizations and roles do they have assigned? And then maybe one of the questions could be also, what kind of SAP licenses have they assigned, or what licensing do they need? Maybe that's an area where we can save some money, not paying for users who are not really using the SAP system like they should. So from your SAP system, we analyze how many users are available, the different user types. Here you see some key figures, how many are logged, how many are active. And then, you see the difference. We have over 9,500 which exist in the system. This is the number of valid users, meaning they could actually log on to the system in that time period. And that's the number of how many are active. In this case, roughly 3,000 are not active. That could be a big license saving if you want to go after that kind of improvement. Now those matrices are available. We have threshold values. We have legends in the front end. So it's really end-user friendly, and you can directly leverage that information for your SAP project. Another area we cover is segregation of duties. So we analyze which transactions could be of conflict, but we also analyze what are the authorizations which potentially could support an SOD conflict. So it's the actual usage of transaction, but then also the potential usage, the combination of certain transactions or authorizations which could create an SOD violation. That might be something different from what you already have or what you have already seen. It's not only the actual usage, but also the potential usage, meaning they didn't use the transaction now, but they could. They have the authorization to do so. Let's take a quick look at some data from our test system. I quickly switch over to the RB Plus browser. This is a front end we have developed to show you the results in a very end-user friendly front end. And as you can see, we have information here on the left, but also on the right-hand side. So you can navigate into the details by clicking through those different elements. And sometimes we have more than one information slide or details attached on the right side. You can increase the font, you can save it, and we also have legends available when we need to explain certain descriptions, certain matrices or whatnot. So let's start with the complexity reduction. That's one of the areas we've discussed as well. Upgrade planning, it's important to document the system, maybe cleaning up the system, and we have categorized our products in different groups, if you will. So complexity reduction, we have the cleanup, and now you can click through the browser, click on the different areas. Some of the offerings might not be out of the box. Maybe some of them are more project specific. So we can help with analyzing your system, but then you probably need to put some additional consulting to really utilize those results. So in the cleanup area, we can navigate down to the application area. The application area is more of the technical foundation of our analysis. And typically we take a look at custom transactions, custom programs. We also take a look at other RISE objects. And the further you drill down, the more detailed the information becomes. So on that high level system enhancement area here. You see that matrix which talks about the different objects in your system, how many are there, in how many development classes are there. And by the way, here we have those legends where we explain basically the columns and the row headers. Now in the custom transaction screen, you see here how many transactions are not used, how many custom programs are there, how many are not used. And those numbers are relatively high, and we provide automatic traffic alerting here. The threshold value here is actually 33%, so we are way beyond that in our test system. Maybe that number is not as high in your system. Maybe it is only 75, 72%. Maybe it's only 50%, but still 50% of custom transactions not used. That's a lot of custom transactions which don't need to be tested if they're really not used. Now you can go from this screen into the details, and then you get a list of your custom transactions, some technical details, and then in the end also the usage of those custom transactions. Those are the ones which exist. Now you can go back here, and you can also click on the not used, for example, and then it will show you the custom transactions and the usage of those transactions. Some of them are used quite heavily, others are not. Now obviously it depends a little bit on your on the data which is available in your system, speaking the analysis period. Do we analyze a year, 13 months? Then that number is really, really reliable. If we only analyze 3 months, yeah, maybe that number will go down a little bit. And in our experience, it will not go down more than 5%, maybe 10%. So maybe the real number, if you take a look at 12 months versus 3 months, is 75%. But there are not that many periodic transactions in your system to significantly lower that number. Now from a KBI perspective, that system doesn't look so good. But we also provide you with some benchmark information, and then you see yourself in comparison to our benchmark. In this case, we are way above the benchmark. So it's not only a high number of not used custom transactions, but the average SAP customer, maybe they have 1,000, maybe a little bit more of not used custom transactions. Custom programs, maybe 3,000. This data here shows it's 7,400. So there's really not a good excuse for having so many objects which are not used. Now, this is more technical information here. We also can go in more functional areas. In the cleanup specifically, we take a look at your configuration. In this case, how many custom order types for production orders are in your system? 11. How many of them are not used in the last 12 months? 90%. Never used, 81%. So that cleanup goes also to the functional areas. What's the configuration available? What is used? What is not used? And you also can drill down then into the details. And here you see from our IDA system the number of order types, how many of those order types have been used. And then you see also some which haven't been used. And in this case, it says without date restriction. That means if you didn't archive in your system, they have never ever been used. So that's why we come to the conclusion that 9 out of 11 have never been used. Now we have also some examples here in the redocumentation area. If you go there and you take a look at maybe the process usage in the accounting area, we analyze org units, how many company codes are in the system, how many are used. Again, you can use those legends to take a look at some of the column headers here. Then you can drill down into the different areas, and you see a scorecard. And that scorecard is really used in the different areas. So whether it's financials or sales, you will see that kind of scorecard in all those different areas. Similar look and feel. Obviously, the data is different, but we take a look at customizing. We take a look at users, at efficiency. The same is here in GL, where we take a look at users and customizing. And we have 24 custom document types in the system. Only 41% of those are used. So this is something to clean up your system, make it more end-user friendly. It helps you with testing, because if certain document types are not used, and they're not never used, then you don't need to worry about them in an upgrade or an enhancement pack. Now the information can be also integrated into SAP Solution Manager. If that's something you'd be interested in, we have information about the process structure here as well. And on top of Solution Manager, it provides you with a lot of more details, which can also help you for impact analysis and testing efforts and whatnot. Now, if you think about the different information you have seen so far, company codes, 38 are used out of 159. Yeah, maybe some of those company codes are really SAP standard, but we are not using them. Maybe some of them are really custom specific. But in the details, you also then see, okay, those company codes, they also have plans, they have sales organization, maybe they have vendor master, maybe they have GL accounts and whatnot. So there is really a whole series of information which might not be relevant in your system anymore. Maybe you have inherited your system from another company. Maybe you have carved out, spun off some divisions. So this is an ideal starting point also for archiving initiatives and whatnot. So upgrade planning, cleanup, upgrade preparation. In the consolidation area, we can take a look at sales in this example, where we see, okay, what's the overlap, what are the differences in the sales area, what kind of document types are used in the different systems, the line items, the item categories, what's the overlap, is there a gap, to see which of the systems really covers most of our business processes. And here we have that example for the requirement types. Okay, in the US it looks like we are not using custom requirement types at all. It's mostly here in the LATAM area from a quantity perspective, but we are also using it in EMEA quite a bit, but not for so many requirements. What you can also see in that statistic, besides the details of the configuration, also comparison from a process structure perspective. And here you can also leverage the different hierarchies. So we're using SAP's Business Process Repository as a structure reference here. And then you see the different processes. And then if you drill down, then you see from a transaction perspective, how often are they used by how many users, and are there some gaps because some functionality is not used in one of the regions, or maybe it's simply not used anywhere. So in this case, material batches are only used in EMEA. That's a functional gap in the US and the Latin system, for example. So if you want to consolidate those systems, or if you want to harmonize those regions, that is good information to have. Now, the last area which I want to go into is the compliance area. And here we have the access analysis, license analysis, segregation of duties. The the latter two are probably relatively self-explanatory, segregation of duties and license analysis. Here in the access analysis, we have some great statistics around users and their activities in the system. So, we can show you which users are active in the different areas. We can show you what kind of documents they create. And then we also have information about transaction usage, for example. So here you can really drill down into a lot of details around your user base. What transactions are they using? How often are they executing it? In which periods are they executed? And how are they executing those transactions? Meaning, is it dialogue? Is it RFC? Is it background jobs they're executing? So that information is extremely helpful for test preparation, but then also, for making sure that the right authorizations are assigned to the right people, so they are not over-licensed, over-authorized, and have too many authorizations in the system. The license analysis basically takes a look at the activities of your users and the license types which are assigned. Now, in this case, it looks like we have a lot under-licensed users. That might not so be good because it doesn't help us maybe to save licenses, but typically, we are looking at over-licensing and see if we can save some license costs here. And then last but not least, the segregation of duty, where we take a look at combination of transactions, which could indicate a conflict here. And you see some of the areas are grayed out, so we don't have a conflict here. Maybe we have a conflict in the sales order area, and then you can see the user accounts and what transactions they have executed, how often they have executed, and how they have executed it, meaning, was it an update, was it in display, which then can help us also to analyze that information further. If they didn't execute those transactions, but they potentially could, they have the authorization to do so, then this is a different statistic where we take a look at the authorization and the roles assigned to those transactions. Okay, as you have seen, there's a lot of good information in here. We help customers also with innovation, like innovation recommendations and migration or building a business case to SAP HANA. We've had a webinar in November last year covering that area, so I don't want to really go into the details. If you're interested, let us know. We can send you also the link to a recording how you can innovate your SAP system, and maybe you have plans to take a look at SAP HANA. We have a really great web application which can help you there as well. So going back to the slides here, how does it really now work with that RBE analysis? So basically what we do, we have a business intelligence system with reverse business engineering. We have defined a lot of content in our RBE content database, and for the different SAP systems, we have defined those check steps, which basically take a look at ERP and CRM and BW, at transaction usage, at table information, and that information then gets extracted from your SAP system, and we will put it in the RB Plus browser, which is our front end, and then you can basically take a look at that information. As you have seen, we provide you with KPIs, with key figures, with a lot of detailed information, and our expert team also takes a look and comes up with recommendation and action item lists. So we extract a lot of data, we make meaningful information out of it, and then our experts also take a look at that information and provide you with recommendations. From a technical perspective, we can also create XML files. You can integrate our results into SAP Solution Manager. also in process modeling tools, for example, that is also possible. Now, what kind of information do we analyze? Typically, we don't analyze really, or we don't extract sensitive information from your system. We don't extract your balance sheet or your profit and loss statement, neither recipes or vendor or customer names. So we take a look at technical information like transactions, rise of objects, how many master data elements do you have, how many vendors, are those vendors used, how many materials are in the system, are they really utilized? What kind of documents do you have in your system? How many purchase requisitions? What purchase requisition types are you using? In which plant or purchase organization are you using that process information here? The customizing we extract, your org units and the usage of your org units, and then a lot of information around your users and licenses and authorizations and their activity. Here I put down a couple of advantages using a tool-based approach like reverse business engineering. The tool itself, as I said, is around since '99, used really thousands of times at different customers, and it's fact-based, extremely reliable, end-user friendly, with the legends, with the alerting. So it's not another data dump which you need to read through. It's really actionable information. And as I said, if you're interested, we will gladly set up some discussions. We will be down at Sapphire. I've attached also some success stories from our customers. Here with CommScope, we supported them with consolidation of 2 systems. We also set up a business blueprint in SAP Solution Manager, and that compliance analysis, user and role analysis also provided additional details for their upgrade planning and test strategy. Another customer of ours, Verizon, actually gave a presentation at one of the recent SAP Tech events around their journey in the SAP Solution Manager world and the reorganization of their roles and authorizations. Okay, well, with that, I will take a look at questions. If you have any questions, please post them in the question tab. And I will take a look and try to answer your questions right now. Okay, so here, first question we have: how long does it take to run an analysis? Does it need to run over a weekend? Yeah, so we're extracting information from your SAP system, and we typically extract it in several sessions, if you will. There's a high-level analysis, how we call it, which basically takes a look at your system. How large is the system, how many users, what release level and whatnot. And then based on that information, we generate additional extraction programs which analyze in more detail. The high-level analysis can run during the week, depending on your release level and your database and your system size. It might run 20 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. If it's an older system, and a really large system, maybe it runs up to 6 hours. And for the detailed analysis, yes, we would recommend to run it over a weekend. Maybe it takes then 12 hours or so, and we would prefer a time where there are not that many end users active on the system. What type of special security or authorization do I need to run the tool? Yeah, basically we will send you a custom program which needs to be implemented in your system landscape, and then it's executed in batch. So typically it's run by your basis or admin team. There are not really that many authorizations needed for running, or specific authorizations needed to running that tool. If you're interested in user information, then we would provide you with some of the authorization objects which are needed. Is there a recommended number of times to run an analysis? Yeah, the reverse business engineering tool is available as a license, and it's available as a service. And what we have seen in larger organizations, where you have maybe several instances or so, it might be more cost effective if you license the tool and then run it on a quarterly basis, to see how the system usage is changing. Maybe you want to run it on your ERP system, on your BW system and your CRM system. How often do you need to run an analysis? I mean, obviously it depends a little bit on your company and the projects you have going on. Typically we say, every year we should run that kind of analysis, but it might be more often depending, on how many implementations, go lives you have. And then the nice thing with the reverse business engineering tool is you not only can compare systems or regions, you can also compare in time. So you could run an analysis, let's say end of March now or middle of April, and then compare those results with information end of the year or end of Q2 or end of Q3 to measure the changes and the improvements you've made in the meantime. How does this tool compare to BPMon provided KPIs and key figures? Yeah, so business process monitoring is a functionality within SAP Solution Manager. For using BPMon, you need to set up SAP Solution Manager. So that is something we help with, setting up Solution Manager. Our content and our tools are used for reverse business process documentation in Solution Manager. And then you can create what they call a solution in Solution Manager, and then you can use BPMon. The difference between BPMon and reverse business engineering is for RBE, you don't need to set up Solution Manager. If you have Solution Manager, great. Then you can use BPMon if you have all the prerequisites. So RBE really helps with Solution Manager, if you will. And then BPMon, I don't know, there are almost 500 KPIs available with BPMon. So which one do you pick? Do you know which ones are important for you? If you don't know, then you can run the RBE analysis and basically use our traffic lightning and alerting to see where you have issues. And RBE points those areas out. And then if you want to monitor those on an ongoing basis, you could set up that key figure in business process monitoring. So we help you basically to pick and choose what should be analyzed on an ongoing basis. Okay. Is this a system add-on? Yeah, RBE is a third-party tool, if you will. So we extract data from your SAP system, but then we can also integrate directly into Solution Manager. Does it have to be done through Solution Manager? No. I mean, RBE and IBIS, we support Solution Manager. There's actually content available from IBIS for Solution Manager, but you can use RBE totally independent from Solution Manager. SAP has defined services from IBIS as supplementary to Solution Manager. So as you can see, some of or most of the information we provide in RBE is simply not available in Solution Manager. All those details around configuration, org units, users and whatnot. So you can leverage the tool on top of Solution Manager, but also independently from Solution Manager. How do we ensure the data in Solution Manager is updated? Yes. So, I mean, you can run RBE on an ongoing basis, and then, as I said, combine the information, compare it, and then in Solution Manager, there's a functionality available called Solution Documentation Assistant, which can be used also to update content in SAP Solution Manager. Is it used in its own namespace? Well, RBE basically requires some custom programs to run. So it's a Z program. It doesn't have its own namespace really. You would need to create a custom program to run RBE. Okay, can we set up the tool to run and monitor on a continual basis? Yes, absolutely. You can license the tool. We offer hosting possibilities, and some of the prerequisites, there are not many, but some of the prerequisites of RBE, for example, is the existence of the transaction monitor. So if you would only have 3 months of STO3 and log files, then it absolutely makes sense to run RBE every quarter, collect the quarterly information, combine it to a year, and then you have a really solid database. 13 months of transaction usage really helps you to answer most of your questions very precisely. Can we develop our own reports and queries from the data that RB Plus extracts? Yes, absolutely. I mean, a lot of that information you have seen in here is offered in a Microsoft Excel-like front end, and we actually can open those sheets in Microsoft Excel, and then you can open them in Microsoft Excel. You can format it, you can put in pivot table, whatever you want. You can add some information. In the browser itself, you can put in annotations and comments. And well, if you don't like the threshold values we have defined, or you want some additional information displayed here, that's also something we can do. I mean, that's something we also do on a regular basis. If you think about SODs, for example, you can define your own SODs, and we can build in your company and your logic here as well. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I will go through a couple of additional questions. But if people need to leave right now, I want to thank you for attending this webinar. We have the session recorded. We will make it available together with the slides. As I said, we will be at Sapphire as well. And yeah, if you haven't filed your taxes yet, it's 3 p.m. Eastern time. You still have a few hours. So happy tax day. I will go through a couple of more questions, and then hope to see you all down in Orlando for Sapphire. Thank you so much for attending. Okay, so a few questions are left over. Who uses the tool, IT or business? Problem with many tools is they are not very intuitive and they become shelfware. Yeah, I mean, in the RBE tool we have a lot of functional information, which is really more towards business analysts and IT. We have technical information. Some of the statistics are probably also relevant for business. So I would say, IT probably owns the tool, but for some of our findings, we probably should involve business to have some discussions around the business processes. Does your tool document create a global business process template for future new implementations? So I think that is also more targeted towards solution manager. So there are a few capabilities in RBE where you can define or create a global template, because we can compare different systems or different regions, and then we can combine that kind of information to a global template, and we could also upload that into SAP Solution Manager as a global template, and then you could use Solution Manager for your rollout. I hope that helps with that question. Yep, and I think with that we've covered the questions. One more here. Does RBE allow a user to create custom queries from the RBE database? Yes. So with the RBE Plus solution, we offer you the possibility to create your own queries, specifically in the user and role area, and you can store those queries. And basically, what you do is you define your own Microsoft Excel file, and then you save that file, has the format like this, and then it gets automatically updated when you run RBE every time. So that is possible. Now, if the data is not available currently in RBE, because we don't analyze the table, for example, or it's a custom table, we can develop that and put it also into the structure. So that is also possible. Okay, with that, I will close the webinar. Thanks again for joining today. Any comments, any feedback, let us know. We are happy to help, and enjoy your week. Thanks.